So a bit of dollar weakness coming in. We're not seeing those figures we saw earlier in the week of 155 naira. But would you say 154 naira is a better showing, a good showing?
Well, Lerato, I think it's a good showing for Naira actually pushing out about a close to 120 cobbles from the opening of today. I think that's a good showing so far. We've actually seen a couple of policy statements, or rather actions by the central bank actually being one of the major driver. We would recall that at the start of the week we had lifting of BDC restrictions that actually caused some weakening coming into the currency, and we saw some form of policy adjustment into that actually feeding into the market, and overall we saw some Naira strength coming back into the market. Basically, I think it was a good showing for the Naira today. All
right, obviously another indicator is what we see at the bi-weekly Forex auctions. By the end of last week, the CBN had pushed up what it was offering by 14%, but there's still a worry that there's persistently high dollar demand. How do you explain that?
Well, on a bit of flows, I mean, we know that the central bank has been a major supplier of the currency in the market, and as a result of that, any dearth of liquidity or some form of liquidity crunch would obviously push all the market demand into that window. CBN has responded, we think, in an appropriate manner. We think they have come out to actually send some good signals that demands coming in through that window will be met adequately. And I think they've done that because outside of the demand at the CBN window, we saw the Naira actually regaining all the losses it did at the start of this week. That tells us that's a good indication also that in terms of price stability, the CBN is actually achieving that somewhat. And also in terms of convergence of rates, I mean, we saw a huge divergence from the start of this week, but onto this auction, we've seen a bit of convergence. And overall, I think the CBN has been doing a good job at that. And most essentially, what most participants or operators want to see some form of stability on the prices. And I think from their actions via the window has actually shown a bit of that.
Let's talk about that convergence of rates and price stability, but this time off the official windows. What the CBN's been trying to do is to get some kind of parity between the exchange rate on the official window and also on the parallel market. These restrictions on the Bureau de Change, has that helped in any way?
Yes, it has helped. I mean, like I said, that's why they actually did some further measures, announcing the measures over the weekend into the start of the trading week. You actually saw on the street Naira actually gain about 500 kobo. That's a huge leap in one day, and for that gradual gains on the Naira has come into the market. And I think with the measures that they announced at the close of trading yesterday, and we're seeing some effect in it today, I think you will see a much further convergence on the currency. And I think looking at the overall theme of the distortion that they observed in the windows when certain policies were put in place initially, I think that has been a source of concern, and as a result, they're actually responding, we think, in an adequate manner to ensure that this convergence that is sought for is actually achieved over the period.
The oil price and its bearing on the Naira, we've seen the oil price drop by about $2 in the last week. And as I said earlier on the show, some experts say we could see the oil price drop even further because of sluggish global growth. What will that mean for the Naira?
Yes, we've already considered the oil prices at these levels. I think currently the oil prices are still a bit above where the budget benchmark or the purported budget benchmark is. That's circa $60, $65 per barrel. We think that's at the present prices still represents some earnings for the government. We think production and the Nigerian economy and the oil production is really relatively stable. Some bit of increase or fluctuation, but overall we think relatively stable. We think the earnings that are coming from the oil will continue at maybe not at an increased pace, but we think some form of stability that yes, it might put some pressure if we see oil dipping further. If we see oil getting into the $70–60 mark, then people might begin to worry. But outside of that, if you look overall on the reserve levels, you've seen the reserve level averaging about 31, close to 34 billion over the past 8 months. And I think based on that, you've seen that also translates into some form of stability. And overall theme, we look not really, we can't really say we're there yet, but right now we really put so much, express so much concern at this prices.